So, hi, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. Today is the talk of one of the HKU new program called Master of Science in Advanced Architectural Design. And we call our program the Building Society. And first of all, maybe I just introduce our colleagues. First is John. John, would you just wave? Oh, then he disappeared. Instead of waving, he disappeared. Right, so we have John Lin. He's the program director. And my name is Kuo. Nah, he's appeared again. So that's John Lin. Just wave, John, so people know which is you. And I'm Kuo, and I'm also one of the teacher of the program. And then we have our guest professors, which is Chang and Taketo. Could you just wave, you guys? So tonight what we're gonna do is we're gonna show the work we have been doing since we started the program in January. And then then after that, we're gonna invite the Chang and Take to show about what they are envisioning for the coming third cohort, which starts in which starts in September. And that's really the aim of tonight to explain our coming research topic. So to start, I'm gonna show you guys a film that we've been working on, but just gonna give you guys some introductions. So we start the program in January, and we've been exploring a place which is in West China, in Yun Nan province, in a village called Dornage, and it's a Lisu tribe. You can call it Lisu tribe. And so we've been really trying to find way to connect to the community and trying to set up collaboration researches with them. And we thought, how can we start building relationship, and how can students research about culture, history, relationships? So we thought, why maybe one of the very challenging way, the storytelling way, which is the filmmaking. And we see lots of similarity between filmmaking and architecture, which also allowed us to begin to interact as a way to interact with the village. So since January till now, we've been going back to the site, filming, learn to interview. Students use this as a technique to learn how to really enter the village. But also through this medium, we begin to develop some dialogues. And from there, we also begin to explore aspect of architecture, which I'm not going to say, which is in the film. We can talk about that afterwards. So that's my introduction. Very simple, but maybe after the film, you guys will get to understand more. And John and I will open up some dialogues and to talk about what's the idea behind all this the program and behind this methodology of working. John, you have anything to add before I share the video, the film?
Yeah, I just want to say that it's not the film, it's a trailer for the film. It's about a 1 hour film. And one of the questions we asked ourselves, because the building society is set up around real projects and real places. And each place is fundamentally different. It has a unique quality. And I think sometimes, architects have the same tools for going to these places to survey, a place, to talk to people. And the question we begin to ask ourselves is, what is a better way to do that? What is a deeper way? Could we begin to think about the usual ways in which architects go to a village or a city and survey, drawing? But is that enough? Is that enough for our understanding to do a project? So it is about research, and it's about design and making real projects. But in this kind of reality of places, for us, the idea of making films is, on one hand, to really engage the villagers in a deeper and more personal way, beyond, you know, making a drawing of a plan, or, you know, doing a survey, or doing even a simple interview. And we can discuss that afterwards. But this was really an interesting question for us. You know, how do we get to know the deeper layers and levels of a place? Okay. And of course, you know, film is also just one of the tools that we explore in the building society. And the important part is also to not just go into a place and to, you know, propose a project, but that the designer or the architect begins first by understanding, by really, you know, connecting on a both personal and intellectual level with any place. The power of empathy as one of the great tools of being an architect. So that's really what I want to say for now. And you know, I think we can show this trailer and we can discuss, you know, why we're doing this and how we're doing this. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, it's going to be about 11 minutes. Okay. So
Okay.
let's.
拍的比较你的角度，这样的，那我就拍
来了。
对，我觉得没事，让他知道我们其实还可以，会引发他的一些行为大赏。
那你是几岁搬到这里住的
？14岁。
14岁。
你是跟着你妈妈是吗？
对对。
你爸爸现在在哪？
他在家里面，刚打工回来嘛。
爸爸为什么离婚？
是我爸有点钱嘛，出去打工，但是家里不打来钱，然后就。
哦。那他们吵架？
之前就说过好几次，然后他就不提，然后就离了。
我感觉我基本上是挺喜欢装那个大葱的。
爸爸。
你要来什么？你上站进来来什么？
我也好去见。
你要见叫你去。要过年了呀，我还以为要过几天要去见一见。你放完年了就不用去了。对。明天后天叫你去。不要冒着点的，你上站起来了，过去，赶紧过去喂。
那我睡觉。
你跟上打。满意了吗？
满意了，可以了。
谢谢了啊。
他开始不是想谈恋爱，我就找他对象可能了，他就同意了。谈了1个星期多吧，就可以见面。我也不知道我喜欢他什么，可能喜欢他的感觉吧。 是那么好。就因为小的一件事情就生气了，是我的我上次上次说我给他拍照，照片没拍好在水气灯了，那回人家就不理我，这次跑上来了。
有点晚上这几天不发哭了，哟，明天后天又来了。我是俺的带子，真错。妈呀！
那都把你东西不了。对，就可以了。
太选了。
等一下啊，
这个不错。
猜一下这个人是谁？
万一哪天那个 USB 的炸弹飞到这里来就完了，就要干钱了。国家发起了囚徒，就打起来逮我们上了。
那边那个魔力一样的整出来是我们的，就是山上的木材是浪费的太多了，接下来就是够了，不用那么多的材料嘛，不浪费了嘛。现在是我们国家不准砍树，就是没有伐头板换了嘛，就是没有新的，就是旧的。
我不是么咋巴绿绿，哦嘛那有的万年妈妈。
这两个是哪个位置的？哪一个位置啊？
哎呀，他早就该换位置了。
So, that's a film. You saw two films. Well, two trailers. Maybe so. John and I just gonna have some dialogues to open up these. Maybe John, why you guys took down a building as a starting point? I mean, why? I mean, how is that related to the program or the intention?
Okay, so you're asking me questions now.
Yeah, I am. So that
Okay.
people.
I think that as I was saying before, you know, one of the interesting things about being an architect is that you always work somewhere that you're not familiar with. You know, so somehow you're always in a way like an alien. And so the skill, which I think is one of the most important, is to be able to very quickly understand a place, you know, to empathize even with the place. But yet, by being an outsider, the question is, you know, what does the architect bring, you know, into this place, and why is that important? So that's one of, I guess you could say, that one of the mysterious things about being an architect that we're exploring. Personally, I also think, you know, in some of the other talks, if this is your first time here, you can look at the other talks that we've given where we really present some of the background research that is part of the setup of the program, some of the projects that we've done that capture the ethos of, you know, the program. And this time we want to have a more direct conversation, but in those things, there is this idea that we're working with places that have deep traditions, that have deep cultures. So in trying to preserve and to evolve these things, to contribute positively, there is a balance between what the architect brings, a kind of maybe worldwide knowledge, their own an understanding of architecture, to a place to contribute where people are also building themselves and they have their own lifestyles. So it's a kind of a dialogue. I think that is the most important. If we really, as architects, want to find a way to contribute to society, and that's one of the big goals. So I would also personally say that I often ask myself, how do you recognize something as architectural, even if it's not designed by an architect? Is it that something you see stands out from the surroundings, but yet it's also connected to the surroundings? It's a kind of language. And then I think this is one of the wonderful aspects of what it means to be an architect today. And later on, we can get into why it's important to question the role of the architect in today's world.
I remember I asked end of this day, it was very magical. I remember it was just a few weeks ago. We were on the site and take down the building, and in the night we were actually setting fires with the wood as well, sitting around with the students, were sharing sections. And one thing student told me, you have to understand, I mean, for the audience, our student, probably like some of you who are intended to join us, probably don't know how to make, probably even don't know the weight of the material. And one thing I thought the student told me very nicely was they began to understand how heavy was each piece of the wood, which they used to do design in their studio, but by really taking down the wood apart, transporting it, measuring it, this whole sensitivity of wood was, the weight of it I think it's going to give them, or give all of us, some sort of new dimensions, sensitivities to build.
Yeah, I mean, to be an architect, designing also becomes more and more easy because we can design in the space of the computer, and it's really to connect between what we design and the reality of, where we actually, what actually architecture is, which is built in a specific place, in a specific culture with a specific community, and to deepen that role and to try to connect these things even more. And that's why, to answer your first question, as students, one of the first activities was not just to propose something or to design something, which it was actually to take apart a house. It's something that we also discovered. It's super inspiring because, we know the whole world is challenged by climate change. We know recycling is super important because, the building industry is the second most damaging industry to the environment. And here in this village, because they can't cut down any more trees, they're actually recycling all the materials into new houses. So, there was a beautiful story in the film about a father who takes his old house and then distributes the material to 4 of his sons, right? I think it's 4 sons. And then they each take this wood and then they find a way to build their own house. And suddenly the material is traveling from house to house to house to house. So you have a very different kind of story about architecture, which I think is very suitable for today's world. It's what we need to really think in a much more sustainable way about how we think about the building industry.
Yeah. And one thing I want to point out, what you just said, that you learned that story from the film of the students. And I also want to go back to the film, also share with the audience. I mean, some of these sort of idea of, trying to talk to villager to find a house that can be taken down, and then actually trying to find local master builders to help us to take it down. It was actually not as easy. You couldn't set this up in the first day of the programs. So where the film I thought was important was students were interviewing or trying to find out, they had to, we lived in the site for a week. And through this whole interview process, we learned about the story John just told you. So I think the film wasn't just, the technique, but you really become a way of guiding me as a teacher, to find way to talk to people. And once you get first hand of material interview, then we begin to look at the film. We ask a second question. So I had to go back. So film became a way to help even myself as a teacher to structure and to find questions. So it was not just, making a beautiful film. And so I'm trying to make this relationship between why we're doing the film, but also how film is helping us do research, and how the film actually is helping us to find this idea of taking down a building. So
yeah, if I can just jump in on this issue of research, this program is a lot about also research and design, and techniques for that. And it's not just to go in and record something. One of the great things that came about was because we were discussing with students about how we could interview. What are the good interview questions? And somehow one of our students has said, "Oh, we were asking, well, what can we do? What can we bring, to the village?" And one of our students said, "Well, I can cut hair." And that was so funny. And then we realized, wow, that's fantastic, because there's a kind of intimacy about cutting hair. You kind of confess things to your barber because you're sitting there that maybe you don't, it doesn't come out when you have a more formal interview. So we created in this way this human connection that was not just us going and recording something, but also students coming and saying, okay, what can I bring, and how can I, participate, in this. And there were a lot of different concerns. There was, even this idea that the village of the animals, which is its own ecology, and to really begin to see it that way. And it takes an outsider to really appreciate that, to see it and understand it, an architect to understand there's the village of people and the village of animals. And that's a very beautiful story about our relationship to nature. So I think that in this first project, we are learning a lot, even as teachers, that we're really working with students. One of the things I thought is very nice is that, architecture is built collectively. It's very important. You don't build it alone. And film is one of these things that can receive also collectively the contribution of many, many people. Ultimately, when you design architecture, you still have to decide. But with the film, what's great is that the film we're gonna present and we're gonna show is really the contribution of all 17 students. Everybody has a voice. And I think it's like architecture. There's a power in something you couldn't just do yourself. So the program is a lot about technology. It's a lot of tools. And I can say, some of the students are here. They've learned how to cast. They've started learning the robotics. Next week, we start with a CNC lathe. We are getting 2 small robots into the studio, actually in 2 weeks. So, but it has to go beyond technology, and film is another technique. We had actually a real filmmaker, not, just architects tried to play with film, but we had a real filmmaker, professional filmmaker from Germany, who's curated the German pavilion of the Biennale. So we are also getting all these kinds of experts, and we're learning from them, and we're learning from each other. I think that's what's really, for me, very powerful about this program. We generate knowledge together.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one last thing I would like to share. It's called the Building Society. John was mentioning one student wanted to cut hair, right? And so I would like to emphasize this idea that we actually are learning with the students. Each student, each individual who actually try to bring in their own personalities. And this is whole idea of a school that we are envisioning, that we are like a big family. We are working together. We are researching together. So it's not really a school that, there's a certain design brief, and we work it out. We follow the brief and do a design. It's really like the building society, where we are a society, where we are working together, trying to realize a project at the end of every year, and come up with our idea, or our test, our exploration. And I do think this whole idea of building society is something that we are trying to build up. And so now we are having the second cohort coming in June. And Chang, they are going to present the research topic of our third cohort. And we are going to have 3 research topics, 3 cohorts running simultaneously, where we again going to be a bigger family, more research, more topic, more technique, and it's going to be quite intense and also quite interesting, I think, in this way to set up. Today, students were telling me, wouldn't this be so tiring for you guys, for John and me, to set up a 3 cohort? And I thought that's actually quite interesting to be so intense.
Well, yeah, also it's not just us. Our own community of teachers is growing and very diverse. So we have carpenters, we have people very, very good at traditional skills. We have a very good researcher joining us who's going to be leading all the digital fabrication work. He's coming from MIT to join our program. So, it's growing. And I think before we pass it on to Chang and Takeo, what's really a pleasure is that, these guys are young architects. They've done an amazing project recently in the Hutongs, which we saw and we thought, wow, this is something new. This is a new, very fresh take on building in the Hutongs. And, we are in the village. We're looking at the village right now. It's a Tibetan village. And in the fall, this new cohort, they're going to be working in the middle of Beijing. But it is, in a way, it's also its own kind of village. So I think these kinds of contrasts, as we go through the program, a lot of it is also about learning from each other. And that's also why we have it staggered. So, instead of a class that starts and it ends, and then a new class, when you come in, there's always 2 groups of students who've been there a little bit longer. And one of our ideas is that that's the best way to pass on skills, because there's so much knowledge and skills that we are introducing. I mean, the students have been working with traditional carpentry now for 10 days. And we're getting into some robotics right now. So I'm very excited. We're going to be working with AI actually this summer. So there's going to be a course on AI as well, and exploring how that can benefit design. But why don't we pass it on to Chang and Takeo to present their experiences and some ideas about their course and their cohorts. Is that okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Should
pass it over to you guys. I mean, I've just called you by name, but you might want to introduce yourselves a little bit. Sorry, I didn't give much of an introduction for you.
Don't worry, we will introduce ourselves. Hello, I'm Chang, and this is
Okay.
we are the directors of an architecture firm called Atelier 56. From the coming September program, we will together to make a toolbox by research, design, and built in the Hutong area at the center of Beijing. Both of us have been working at rural area for many years, and this is one of our favorite village with the sunken courtyard with the sunken courtyard houses. You can see the house that is sunken courtyard. We finally settled down in Beijing because it is not only an international city with all those big-scale iconic buildings, but also some small-scale village-ish life in Hutong. In case you don't know what is Hutong, it usually refers to the small alleys between the main roads, which goes west-east oriented. The Hutong is formed by rows of introverted courtyard houses. This is one of the courtyard house, Yun. This is a Hutong and one of the typical courtyard house. Originally, the courtyard house is owned by one big family, and it has a big courtyard surrounded by rooms and usually have trees in it. The courtyard is the center of the house. But now it's subdivided by many families, and the yard is eaten by the extensions. Only the trees left the clue. So now we often call it Yun, meaning a courtyard houses have many families living in it. Usually you could tell the number of families by counting the number of the electric meters at the entry. This is one of the electric meter, and this is one family. Okay, let me walk you into one of the courtyard house. We are now in the Hutong. The scale of the Hutong is almost the same as before. You see many gates. That's the entry of the courtyard house. Then when you get into, you will see many of these electric meters. No yard anymore. Only a narrow, long way goes on and on, connected to the different houses. You see the different houses with different doors. And luckily, there's one house under construction now. You could sense a bit of the scale of the yard from it. The extensions are usually made at the back and front of the original rooms. I'm done. Welcome to our home. We didn't have the extension at the back, so we keep this little backyard. The rooms are usually have quite high ceiling, so loft is a common choice to increase the living area. You see the little windows on the side? That's our neighbors. They're taking advantage of our little yard to get light and ventilation. We're lucky to keep this little yard, so when we are inside, we still feel connected to the outside. We don't feel depressed when we are living in a tiny house. So now there are many kinds of people living in this area, very mixed situation. There are local elderlies. There are kids because there are better schools. There are young people and foreigners who love Hutongs and super rich people and deliverymen. I used to live in a courtyard house where there are deliverymen store next to my room, 6 of them sharing one room of 15 square meters. Because the Hutong is at the center of the city, so they can easily come back to charge their battery of the scooter during the day. Small business are alongside the hutons as well, such as barber shop, express sport, convenience shops. Usually they're using the doorway to serve some convenience to the neighbors. Also, there are many kinds of organizations as the players here to shape the physical space. Small hardware shop and freelance workers you could find a lot along the roads. Usually, they are helping the residents to do small constructions using the fastest and cheapest way. They are the freelance workers. They're waiting at the road. And also the house agency. You could also find a lot along the road with a bit fancier decoration. What they are doing is find the scruffy, empty courtyard house and renovate them. Then they can rent out or sell them with a much better price. Like this one room, which is around like 30 square meters, after the renovation, it could be rented out by around 10,000 RMB. The popular ways are adding loft, skylight. Even better is to build rooftop terrace and having a small yard. Their renovation is driven by the market. Then the local planner, who is in charge of a sub-district. Their work under the big plan of evacuation, turning the vacated courtyard into public facilities, and meanwhile to improve some infrastructure such as drainage, electric wires, garbage collections, parking lots, and so on. And housing management office, which is under the government, who is in charge of management, maintenance, and repair of the courtyard houses. Also, many architects have made proposals for the prototype with micro interventions. So our stance is trying to enable people joining in the process of enhance their own living environment. The more the better, by involving them into the loop of observation, exploration, and action. We hope to stimulate people to be more sensitive about their own living condition and to intrigue a loop of involving. To achieve that, we will design in a loose, relaxed system with many layers, rather than a holistic design, so it can be easily adjusted and keep evolving. That is to motivate people to find and make their own living environment. I will show you some examples of our observation of evolving, which we find is very fascinating. This is a house initially had a small terrace in front. And entering winter, they start to cover the wall by plastic sheets to break the wind. And then when summer came, they planted vegetations for shading. Same with this house. During the COVID, they took down the front extension, turned it into a front yard. You could tell from the fence-like thing that was a front yard. Then in the winter, they covered the yard with the polycarbonate sheets. Now, spring is here, they opened this little window for fresh air. This case, they built this terrace to gain more floor area, using glass in order to keep the light goes down. But last summer was super hot in Beijing, so they covered the glass with the sunshade net. Also, small girls like this from 1 floor to 2 floors. This kind of self-built patchwork system is quite the same between the Hutong and the village. But in Hutong, there's more restrictions because of the density and some of the policy. So it needs kind of a combination of top-down and bottom-up operations. We believe to design a toolbox would be an effective way to intervene in this circumstance. In the toolbox, we will have component which is designed from our observation exploration. Apart from it, we will have a proposed methodology to guide people to involve the components. Some top-down guidelines are necessary here too. One example of the components we made for a bookstore as a part of the courtyard house. Here, the window is crucial component. Windows in Hutong and courtyard houses are contained by many needs. Apart from bringing lights and ventilation, it needs to protect privacy, needs to cut the cold in the winter, and also needs to be able to create space for storage and other stuff. Like this is a space for the cat. And that one is for bird. So the window we designed in between the bookstore and the courtyard with the main consideration of protecting privacy, sharing storage space for both sides without sacrificing the light and ventilation. The doorway as a component as well. For a space like a bookstore and cafe, local elderly people will find not well welcomed here. We combined the steampunk booth with a setback entrance to create a space for both young and old, locals and visitors. Another example is about the method. People have many needs to create way to utilize the public space. That's why we proposed a chair, which is very easily to assemble with the tubes you can find around you, such as yoga mats, PVC pipes. You just need to connect them by the belt, like this. Very easy. And it also can be easily carried around and adapt to different situation, like the steps. The chair enabled the action of lying down in public. So they could observe and enjoy their surrounding in different angles. When you lie down, you see this beautiful view with trees and birds and skies. Another tool I want to share with you is Taobao. You might have already noticed it provides a lot of customized service now. This could help people to make self-built with better quality. Okay, so for the coming program, we will build a courtyard renovation service center together, where all kinds of people could come to buy hardwares and components, to make components themselves, and most importantly, to gain knowledge to enhance their own living environment. There will be 3 different semesters. In semester 1, students will make interview and observations and turn it into a primary design for a component. In semester 2, students will develop the design by making small mockups, probably with Taobao or some local small workshops. And the semester 3, we will together combine the components and build a demonstration room. The highlight will be the open event. We will invite all the shareholders in Hutong, and the students will promote their components, introduce their observation and vision about Hutong. We will open to the big community and get them into the loop. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
Very nice.
Fantastic. Very exciting. Should we open it up directly to students as
Yeah,
well, and for questions about anything we've talked about this fantastic program, which I think is very, very innovative in many ways. Even I would just say one thing, which is I think what's quite interesting about it is the way that we really rethink, you know, our role as an architect. You know, not just to do a kind of heroic or finished building or design, but to work within this kind of engaged manner. So I find this to be a super interesting exploration. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. Are there any questions from the audience for any of us? We
also,
probably have about
I like to invite also the audience, you know, turn on camera. I always like that. And so please do feel it's a chance to answer questions, because I get lots of emails from applicants and I need to email all the time. Wouldn't it be nice? I do like this so I can reduce the amount of email I write. I mean, anybody? I can comment a little bit. I thought it was great. One thing I like about was there's a certain humor in your presentation and the scale you're working on. And I think that sort of humor or that human scale, probably we can rediscover in the sort of village scale we're looking for. And I thought that's quite interesting contrast. You are in the city, but it's although you find that sort of human scale, begin to also use your method to bring the humor out of it. And one thing I also thought was quite interesting was that John and we are working in a remote village, but we are traveling there. But what is nice with you guys was you live there. You are almost the villager of the city. And then, so there's really contrast where you're working. And I thought, I don't know, I'm really looking forward to how these two programs going to contrast, but also find similarity, and how we can sort of begin to discuss architecture, you know, out of all these dialogues. So I thought that's very interesting. So that's my thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to make it clear that, you know, students, when they come in, of course, they're not just working on their own, you know, studio project, because there are themes. But, you know, each time that you come in, there's 3 different themes happening, and then students are able to, you know, participate and to engage in any of them. You know, I'm doing a renovation for one of these underground houses, you know, Chang, that you showed. And also we had brought the students there to take a look at some of that as well. So there's a lot of kind of different kinds of experiences in parallel with the main design and research studio. And I really particularly like that we don't just say, okay, the village and the city are very different, but that we start to find connections between these 2 communities, and this sense of informality, you know, or the humor and the human qualities. I think these are the essential in architecture. Okay.
I just wrote down, I know people normally are quite shy. So you can type if you're shy. And these projects serve as a doctorate preparation course. John, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I do get a lot of PhD propositions. And I think for me, one of the most important things in judging these is the connection back to a relevant problem or a real problem. And I think that's one of the things we've been emphasizing, which is to say, though we have themes, though we have topics, we don't actually go in with an idea of, what to build. It's not just a design, it's not a design build, which you can have in any, undergraduate or graduate course. It's really a kind of, research and design course where you also work with the actual, experts who are already working in that. And then as they push the boundaries of these issues, the students are actually working alongside and not doing an exercise, but contributing to invent and to create those, this agenda. So I think one of the things is, I don't know officially, how you want to utilize it, but definitely through these studios, you could perhaps discover your topic within that. And there's definitely about that kind of space, and to discover your topic, not just in a space of fiction, but already working at the front lines, of what is already happening out there. So all of us, all the project leaders, they're on the leading, the leading edge of, some of these, these topics and these issues. Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
I got a private question. I don't know why somebody sent me a private question. I'm going to read it out so everybody hear the question. What is the theme for the June intake, which is the Olivier's program? I mean, Olivier is not here to answer that.
What is the what?
What's the theme, the research topic for the June program? We can answer that for Olivier. But I mean, it's also answered in the website. We got all the video. So you guys can look back, but maybe John, you could also open up a little bit just to share, because there are 3 carefully constructed cohort and theme, and they are parallel, but they're also contrasting each other, just like what we talk about between what we are doing in rural, what Chang and Take is doing in city.
Yeah, in the June intake, the focus is really going to be a lot on the idea of prototyping. So they will be working a lot with factories, different kinds of factories throughout China. Those who are making the netting and fabric, and also with inflatables. So there's a kind of, again, there's only a thesis. So what's exciting is that, he's proposing a project which has never been done before, which is to develop the case for inflatable casting. And that's going to require a lot of, techniques of both computational techniques going from 2D to 3D. There's a whole interesting, issue there. And also real life engagement with factories. We also have technology. We have a 3D knitting machine, and this idea of perhaps working with that. One of the site will likely be in Baojing, which is near Zhangjiajie in Hunan, where they have this great rock formation. So we also have been working to find a specific site. Yeah. Okay, if that's okay, I want to answer the other question. Which province is the course base starting in September? Well, that's going to take place in Beijing. but you know, you will be traveling there, but our studio and our workshop will be in Hong Kong. So we have a whole fabrication facility. We have the expertise here in Hong Kong, as well as the studio. And all the 3 different cohorts, we share a studio space. Chang and Takeo will be traveling to Hong Kong to deliver this studio. So there'll be like this kind of guest professors who are traveling here. And we've already been on 2 field trips, right? I mean, you know, the first semester, I should explain. I mean, we had 2 field trips to the village. There was 2 other smaller field trips to the underground house to see one of my projects. For the sustainability course, they've been working with Lydia Ratoy on one of her projects in Hong Kong. So there's quite a lot of trips and things. Sometimes we are funding the transportation, and you know, the underground house, I think we didn't fund the flights, but we funded the stay.
Okay.
Okay.
Next question.
There's 2 others. Are there any part-time or full-time RA positions available in this course? What we try to do is, because we have our own independent research, we do hire some students. So I have 4 students working with me now, you know, on models, and those are paid positions. You know, we do have a scholarship which will be given out in the 2nd semester of every cohort as well, and that's based on need and merit. So there's a combination of variables. Oh, the elective courses will change every year. Kuo, you want to answer that?
I mean, I think the question maybe there's a misunderstanding there. We do have many elective courses which you can find in HKU website and our website. Doesn't mean you take the June course and you don't manage to take the other course. Basically, you take elective course every semester, so it will be rotating. And I mean, the theme, majority of the theme are based on fabrications. Fabrications, but there's also theme on urbanism, right? There are themes on material. Hold on.
Yeah. We also have 2 creative practices in which you invite artists to deliver the courses. But basically, you know, there are going to be, in 1 year, there are 6 electives offered. So each semester we offer 2 different electives in which you can choose from. You know, so you would end up taking 3 of those 6.
But what was quite nice, which we didn't show today, was our new studio space. We are going to work together. And basically, even though you're taking the other elective, you think, oh, I'm missing that one, you're going to see the other one. So basically, you're going to see everything together. It's pretty exciting. And I think I don't know if this is the right word, it's almost luxury to have the sort of equipment and the space that we are setting up. I didn't show it, but
well, but maybe we also answer this question of June. You know, yeah, I think that's very important, is that we have our own space, we have our own fabrication facilities, we have our own robot, you know, we have even machines that are specialized. In June, correct me if I'm wrong, the elective is AI, right? We have an AI class,
and
then there's materials.
Yeah,
so you can choose between 2 electives. One is like you know, AI, and one is the materials. Is the syllabus written
on the website? You guys can download it in the website.
Yeah.
So here, Professor, I'm looking forward to study. Where is the course? So I'm going to read it so everybody here. Dear professors, I'm looking forward to study advanced architectural design at the University of Hong Kong. I would like to know whether this course I very focused on the design or practical project, or whether it also includes some future-oriented critical thinking courses.
Both.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, the idea, I think, is that you can't do one without the other. You know, so in many sense, all the projects and the research are real, but you also need theory. You know, you need history, and that's what architects can offer. That takes it beyond this solving of just a practical problem. So I think what we're really striving to is to hit that balance. And the word I would use is to be impactful. You know, to really, which projects and which ways have an impact on society. So in the website, in one of the first lectures, I show a project that I collaborated with one of the teachers of the sustainability course, Lydia Ratoy, and we took a robot into a rural village, you know, in Guizhou, and started to think about how, you know, this kind of advanced technology could benefit, you know, a different kind of society, not just a rural one, but a very everyday one, and that sometimes technology, when it gets invented, is only being used in a kind of, you know, exhibition way in the city. But how can we actually utilize this for real, you know, broader society?
I mean, Chang, Take, welcome to join this dialogue. And I like to just respond to again that question of practical project. I mean, it sounds bad the way you put it in the practical project, but in fact, I do find lots of magic in being real and being out there. I almost find that's somehow the strength of this program, which is offering that we have to go out there. And I thought one thing was very important is if you go through this process for 1 year, you're gonna know how to set up a project by yourself. You know, you're not waiting for a client. You actually need to be out there like entrepreneurship. You need to manage your project. You need to set it up, finance it in a way, technical research, and make it work. That's probably the most difficult part. So I don't think actually practical project is that negative. Actually, it's probably what's really missing in nowadays architecture school, you know, trying to be real about it. And so I think this is what the Building Society is trying to construct as a program. Okay. I mean, I don't know, Chang and Take, do you have any sort of, you know, view that you picked up in some of these questions or in the sharing tonight?
Yeah, I find this quite interesting about the conflicts some students might think between the practice project and the future thinking. And for us, even we are doing like relatively small projects, we always have this big vision in ourselves. Like we said in the beginning, like even we design a small project, we always think big. The small designs are always based on our big vision. There's always a connection and interaction between that.
Yeah, I agree.
Wonderful. Oh,
okay. Yeah. Do you want to say something?
I think, yeah, I mean, you can. You need to apply first. I think it is. John has been really trying to take it on. You know, many of our students, because he's got many projects, and there is always opportunity to you know to get engaged in our work. You know, so I do think that will happen, and
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's quite straightforward.
Yeah, it's about working on real research, you know. It's not a simulated research that often happens in school or doing an exercise, you know, and that's why I think also there's a degree of flexibility. I think our students, our current class, we're really working very much as a team. And now we're really starting to realize, you know, who has which interests and also expertise, you know. I mean, I have one student working with me on a furniture project. you know, so there will be. Yes, we're going to provide all the software. I mean, if you want to prepare yourself, I mean, it's good to know Rhino. You know, it's good to have some sense of Grasshopper, but we already have all the teaching in place. So actually next week we're starting with working with Fusion, which is the program that you need as an interface between, you know, kind of Rhino model and working with the CNC.
There's a question asking, I would like to know when will the June intake graduate from HKU? I'd like to answer this and adding a little bit more quite important information. First of all, the June you started and you're gonna finish in May. So that's 1 year program. So if you started in September, you're gonna finish in August, right? So, but one thing here I like to emphasize, which is quite different from different universities program, or even in our Master of Architecture program, is a 3-semester course. So, I mean, Chang, they presented already, they break it down into 3 stages. So you are actually working on one big research project. And slowly, you're gonna come to a point that you make it realized. So it is one big research project breaking down into many parts. Unlike the other program, you get to do small exercise, right? Or per semester. So that's quite different setup. So I answered the question of June, right? Finish in May, something like that.
Can I say something which I think is the most valuable thing about the program and the biggest difference between, you know, undergraduate or MArch programs? You know, we call it the Masters of Advanced, you know, Architectural Design. And it's not because of the technology we're offering. We are, you know, working with advanced technology. It's not because of the sites or also these great teachers. But fundamentally, it's because we are working on problems which don't already have solutions. You know, we are working on things which are unclear, which are uncertain. And to have the experience of really engaging with this uncertainty, with this open-endedness, I think is probably, for me, what I think is going to be the most valuable for students. It's to really accept that and to be able to then, you know, choose your path in this.
Yes. There's a question. Is it necessary to submit a graduation project or thesis for graduation from this major? I think we kind of answer that, right? I think we answer that. It's a one single project, and we are going to make a book as a way of documenting and develop some critical aspect, critical thinking through a book, and then build a building. That's sort of the end. But what we show you today was our research, right? Our beginning of the research. But you probably can see from the film, we are leading towards, you know, a real project that we're going to try to work with community to realize that.
Yeah. I mean, we look at it in 3 semesters, is really 3 sites of investigation. So one is, you know, the field research, to work in the field. There's a field research. There's the laboratory, you know, working in the laboratory to prototype, and then working with a real site, a specific site of construction. So we're sort of, the classroom is being expanded to these 3 realities. Yeah. Okay. I think we have to wrap it up.
Yeah. I think we cover.
Any last questions?
Any last questions? Any last words? He cannot hold himself, can he? Yeah. Okay. John and Chang, I think that's about all the questions.
Okay.
Oh, we have one question. Wonderful.
Hi.
Thank you for your face.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Lee Han. I'm from Malaysia and currently working in Singapore. So, I'm currently working as a assistant architect. So usually my job scope is more on like preparing drawings and models. I don't really have the chance to like see the project from the start to end. And I was trying to find programs in masters as well, where I can understand a full project, and somehow I on the building society. So it's very interesting where you guys go to like remote areas and to really go down with the villagers or the people there to understand and to build something, a one-to-one scale, so that the students can have an overview of problem solving and create something and impact. So it's very interesting. And thanks Taketo and Chang for sharing the brief as well. I have a question for you guys. So for the Hutong area, right, it's a pretty interesting site where there's a lot of courtyard houses, but I'm kind of curious, like, why the curriculum brief somehow designed to propose to do a renovation service center. So how that function of building was introduced, and throughout that 1 year, what is the expected outcome from the students? Like, what are the students expected to do in the end?
Okay, for the program, it's just a setup for now, but we find it's would be quite interesting to do a courtyard house renovation service center, which is a building as a demonstration room. At the same time, it sell products, it sell the components you designed, the students designed. It will also have workshops. Maybe the locals can come to make the components by themselves, and also they can get the knowledge which will be the book the students make to help them to enhance their living environment. So it's a kind of consolidation of the physical designed components and the knowledge exchange.
I mean, that's very interesting. You know, see, the first thing is that each of the projects, there's a certain kind of openness to it. You know, of course, the Hutong, they will renovate a courtyard house, but the uncertainty here is that the students are actually designing each their own toolbox or detail. You know, we really don't know what that's going to be, and that I think that's exciting. In the June intake, the students are gonna work on a technique which has never been tested before. You know, with combining factories which are doing, you know, we do a lot of background work, of course. I mean, it's only 1 year, so we have like years of background research and work so that when you come in, you can go from start to finish in 1 year. But of course, the actual preparation work is starting already many years, and that's why we pick people with very specific expertise, you know, and locality. So in the June project, you know, we've already visited some factories that, you know, in China, the factories are producing almost 99% of the world's like knitted fabrics, you know, for playgrounds, for, you know, the netting for soccer fields and inflatables. And we're going to be working with these factories to design them at a much bigger scale to be able to do like cast architecture with it. So that one is a completely new technique. And in our program, in this current cohort that Kuo and I are leading, we're working in this village, but we didn't know what we were going to build with the villagers. And now we're designing something for their small toilet and shower facilities. Basically, the students have been living there, and we said, okay, what's the most important thing to improve? And everyone was agreeing, okay, this is the toilet. We really need to improve that. And we're building this kind of tower structure, you know, for like shower, toilet, washing, and viewing tower.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
with the degree, we discover this along the way.
I feel actually Chang's proposal is not so fixed. I think she took it very open. So there's not really, I think a toolbox or service center, what does that mean? You know, even we are designing a house. I mean, what does that mean? Does it really mean a house? So I think they kept it really strategically very open about. So it's
The
for
contrast is very interesting. You know, one is more strategic. Maybe it's about the guidebook and testing these details. You know, then there's of course a more, you know, more formal building project. You know, we've been exploring ideas of like working with animals, you know, living with animals. That's coming out of our village, because there's a whole animal ecology there, society. You know, so it's coming naturally out of each project. Yeah, so I think that's quite exciting. Also, the form of it is going to be very different, right? That's why I was very excited about what was presented about the hutongs. Is that, you know, this is almost a more strategic, you know, like the impact is just to begin to influence all the residents to a very specific urban, it's almost like an urban detail. You know, versus like a building or, you know, which has clear boundaries.
does it
Or just a technique.
yes.
Yeah. Or just like a pure you know, new industrial technique for making architecture. You know, of course, we're also recycling. Right? We're working with timber. I think the next program is going to be working with air and fabric and concrete. And then finally the hutongs, I guess the materials will come out of the hutong. Probably a mixture of materials. Yeah.
Usually, how many students will the program takes for one intake?
One intake, we have a limit of I think 21.
around 20? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it will be 60 students together. You know, so it's not just 20, you're actually working with 60 students, and actually lots of teachers gonna be in the same room, different time, of course. So it's gonna be super exciting and tiring too, intense collaborations.
Okay.
Looking forward.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you
Shall
for
we
sharing.
wrap it up?
Okay, I think that's about it. I mean, the last question is the same. We answered that about PhD. So, right.
I would encourage you guys to watch the two previous lectures, which are very different. You know, we have also Olivia and Lydia was also talking about their own work. I think Quill, you talk about your own work, and I talk about some of the research work that I've been doing that is some of the basis of this program.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
guys. Thank you. This recording will be on our website next week. So if you guys want to look back, you know, go check our website. And the deadline for this application is in about less than 4 weeks. Okay. Any question? Email John.
Email's not available. Look forward to meeting some of you in the program. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
Ciao.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.